All right, for today's video review, we're going to continue on our look here of the Transformers Generations Legacy, A Hero is Born 2-pack. We took a look at Alpha Trion and briefly took a look at Vector Sigma last time. So today's video is going to be just focused on Orion Pax, though if you want to see Vector Sigma, it's, pretty simple. Just plugs in, has the little key on the top there. Is a ball, what you see is what you get. That's that. But yeah, no, today we're going to be specifically looking at Orion Pax. And yeah, this is a pretty nice little figure. This is a retool of the Transformers Studio Series 86 Cup mold, unsurprisingly. We've gotten a figure or two of Orion Pax in the past that were like, unique molds, but the origin of this figure originally, the first figure of Orion Pax was a Cup retool. It wasn't actually during the G1 toy line, but I want to say it was Fun Pub did a repaint of G1 Cup as Orion Pax. Repaint / retool, I should say. And I think it works really well. Their robot modes are kind of similar in the actual animation, and we never really saw a vehicle mode for Orion Pax in the original cartoon. So really, it can be kind of whatever as long as it's a somewhat Cybertronian vehicle, because obviously, since he was Optimus Prime well before he went to Earth, he wouldn't have an Earth vehicle or anything like that. So I think using him as a retool of Cup makes a good amount of sense. And yeah, I think it looks pretty good in vehicle mode. It rolls okay. The wheels on Cup were a little bit stiffer than they could be. So like, it doesn't roll super duper like freely, but enough. I think it works pretty well. It comes with the same accessories that Cup came with, the little blaster here, and then of course the kind of unnecessary for him Energon goodies bit from that one scene in the 86 movie where Cup gave the Alicons Energon goodies. So a little bit unnecessary, but it was part of the mold, so I think they just include it for that reason. But yeah, you can store these in vehicle mode. There's just these little tabs on the side here that you can peg the gun into, and then this one kind of sits at a sort of weird angle, but it just tabs on like that. And yeah, it's not great. I don't really like that storage, but I don't really need Orion Pax to have weapons, or certainly not the Energon goodies anyway. So I personally just leave these off to the side and just put them in my box of accessories and leave him as is. But that's where they store if you want to store them. In terms of comparisons in vehicle mode, just for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see it's kind of a small vehicle mode. Obviously, if you're familiar with the 86 Cup mold, then it's kind of small, but also it's like an alien vehicle. So really it can scale however it needs to. Here he is again. I mean, we already showed him off. There he is with Alpha Trion, obviously. Here he is with Cup. So you can see there's a bit more remolding than this in robot mode. But in this mode, the visible stuff is mainly just the front section here, where, he's got a completely different shaped chest there to look slightly more, reminiscent of a proto Optimus Prime. This is like the design that he had in the cartoon from the episode that he showed up in. So, slightly different vehicle mode identities there, but mostly the same. And I guess from the side here, you can kind of see that the shin pieces are also resculpted, since his sit down at a weird little angle there, for whatever that's worth. Here he is with Optimus Prime, Earthrise Optimus Prime. So you can see there he is with who he will eventually become. And then last but not least, here he is with the only previous version of Orion Pax that I have, which is the Thrilling 30, I think, Orion Pax. And yeah, I like this vehicle mode better for him, just because this one, though alien, always felt a little bit too close to like an Earth pickup truck. So it, it felt a little bit too close to an Earth vehicle than I would prefer. And this one is definitely a lot more alien. So I prefer that, but they're both good figures, all things considered. And yeah, to get on to transformation, obviously it's the exact same as Studio Series Cup. His arms are pegged underneath here, which is still really annoying. It's a little bit easier to get his off than Cup's for whatever reason. But again, you're like kind of putting your fingernail on the paint here and like trying to pry up the arms. And sometimes they'll just like come clean off because of, the gimmick that Studio Series Cup has. So I generally don't tab them in. I just kind of loosely hanging them out down there, and it works fine. It's not like they rest against the ground or anything, and it just makes it a little bit easier to transform, and the tabbing in is kind of unnecessary. So that's what I do, but to tab them in, they do have little tabs down there. And then you kind of split this section and then flip the actual truck bed onto the back of what will be the legs here. Kind of widen these out to the side just so you can untab these sections from up here. Take these panels, kind of untab them. They have a very small amount of slide out to the side, and then you double hinge them down like that so they sit on the back of the legs. Flip out his toes here. And then for these panels, you're supposed to unhinge them and then adjust this little hinge in the middle so it sits more straight, and then fold them back up. But, really you can kind of just loosen it and then tab it back in without, pulling it down all the way. Then you want to take the arms here and fold them out to the side on these panels and just leave them like that for now. Take this panel, kind of fold it out from underneath the head there, and then flip this up. You want to mess with the double hinges here just so that tabs into place, and then you can flip it up so that this actually properly overlaps the abdomen section there. Then you can take these little sections with the wheels, flip them into the body, and then take the panel that the head is on and kind of tab them into that, and then rotate his head around. Take these panels with the arms on them, and they kind of like swing in to compress further on this little section here, and then fold that down on the double hinge so it will just tab in with this this tab on the side of the body there, just like that. And then take this panel, flip it up like that, and then there's these two little tabs on the back here that are supposed to go into these slots. And I find on mine that for whatever reason, like, it works fine on Cup. These don't really tab in. They kind of just rest there, which is not honestly that big a deal, just because like the joint that is attached to, at least for now, is tight enough that like it's not like flopping around or anything. But I do wish that kind of like more securely tabbed in place, but not a big deal, just worth mentioning. But yeah, there we have Orion Pax in his robot mode, and I think he looks really good. I like the choice to, do this more like pastel-y blue, which is a little bit more similar to how it was when he showed up in the cartoon. And then he does still have a few accents of the more like, darker Optimus Prime-y blue on there. So pretty nice. Has a nice head sculpt. I really like this head sculpt. It's a little bit proportionally bigger than the Thrilling 31, which we'll see in a bit, which is nice. But yeah, one thing that's a little weird is, they are kind of returning to this tradition of having light piping, but then painting the eyes anyway. And with him in particular, that's kind of bothersome because, yeah, you can kind of see it there, is that like the eye sort of like weirdly illuminates, and then you can hardly tell that the light blue paint is even there. And I don't really like that the light kind of like shines through and makes his eyes look like kind of weird and awkward like that. So I don't know. You could probably fix that just by like putting a little bit of paint on the back here just to cover up the port from which the light actually comes in, and then I think it looks just fine. But having the light peeking through the eyes there on him in particular, I don't think works very well, just because like pastel-y paint isn't all that translucent, or at least this pastel-y paint isn't. So the light is not really like shining through his eyes and lighting it up in the color of the paint. It's just like outlining it in this weird sort of like clear section. So it's a little awkward, but not the end of the world. In terms of articulation, obviously he's just like Cup. The head is on a ball joint here, gets a pretty good range and a good amount of waggle back and forth. The shoulders here are on swivels and then hinges out to the side. Just like Cup, they're a little bit weirdly low, but not the end of the world. His arms here can like rotate around like this. He still has the gimmick that Cup has, where you can pull off his arms and legs, which is not. It's more of like referencing Cup and how he was being rebuilt in by Rodimus, or Hot Rod rather, in the movie. But it kind of works with him too, because like the whole origin story of Optimus Prime from that that episode of the cartoon was he was kind of destroyed by Megatron, and then Alpha Trion rebuilt him as Optimus Prime. So I mean, he in the cartoon he really just got like shot in the chest. But I think it's like, as you could set up a Alpha Trion mid rebuilding scene where he's got like all the parts laying around, and it kind of works for him too. But yeah, it does give him a bicep swivel there, and then he's got a pretty deep elbow bend, a lot over 90 there. Nothing at the wrist, it's just molded in place. The waist has a swivel. Hips can go forward and back and out to the side. Again, just because of that peg in, he's got a thigh swivel there. He's got maybe a degree or two less than 90 at the knee bend there, and then the toes can kind of tilt in, but I don't know that that's super useful. But then the foot has a separate angle tilt. So yeah, just like Cup, pretty decent articulation. Nothing that exciting, but definitely adequate in terms of comparisons in this mode. Just for the standard one, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see, he's a little bit tall, but otherwise mostly an average size deluxe there. Here he is again with both Alpha Trion and the key to, or the full Vector Sigma there. So you can see what he looks like, but the full set looks like all together. I think they look pretty good. Here he is with Cup, just so you can see some of the differences here. So in this mode, obviously the head is different, the chest section is different, the lower arms are different, pretty much just like the elbow down. You can see some resculpting there. The shin detailing is different, and everything else is the same. When I got this guy, his hips were actually rotated around the other way like that, and that works just fine. So if you want it to have like different hip detail on like how it is on the other side rather than how Cups looked, you can switch it around like that. It works just fine. Same thing with the arms. Like, technically I think Cup's arms are supposed to be like this, where this angled bit kind of sloping in, but you can have it go either way. This is how it was in the box, so I just left it like that, and it differentiates it a little bit, but really I think both look fine on either of them. But yeah, that's what they look like together. And then last but not least, oh no, not last but not least, we got one more. All right, here he is with Optimus Prime from Earthrise, just so you can see Orion Pax, Optimus Prime. I think they look pretty good together. And then actually last but not least, here he is with Thrilling 30 Orion Pax. And yeah, definitely very different aesthetics. I like this figure a lot, but this one is definitely a lot more, G1 accurate in terms of the lighter blue and having the more kind of like standard robot proportions, whereas he was like, this is kind of like a cooler redesign of Orion Pax. But you can see what I'm talking about here with just like proportionally the head in scale to the rest of the body. I definitely prefer that. But, I think that they're both good looking head sculpts, but no denying this one is definitely more G1 accurate. So I prefer this one, but either are good options there. In terms of his weaponry, obviously, you can have him hold his little his pistol here, and you can have him hold the Energon goodies. Though again, the Energon goodies, especially, I'm like, this is a Cup thing. I don't think he needs it. And then the pistol is like, I don't tend to think of Orion Pax as really being like a warrior, since he's kind of pre-war in most continuities. So I don't know. I'll just leave the gun off to the side. There's no real way to store it because the tabs that they pegged into before are covered up in this mode. I don't think there's anything on the back. So yeah, no real storage, which is also not great. So personally, I just put these off to the side, but either way, that's what he has in terms of weaponry. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. It's a good set overall. I definitely the main draw of this set for me was Alpha Trion, and then, getting Vector Sigma is also nice. And I cared a little bit less about Orion Pax, but he is a nice figure as well. So just overall, a pretty solid set. And, regardless if you're actually using it to, homage that one episode of the G1 cartoon, or if you're just having them be separate figures in different places in your collection, I think that they look pretty good. And yeah, I'm definitely happy that I picked this set up. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Orion Pax from the A Hero is Born 2-pack.